On today's show, Sunday's loss against OKC is a bad one for the Cavs, but I don't think it's worth panicking about. I'll tell you why on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're listening to another edition of Locked On Cavs, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in all of America. You can find this show and any other Locked On podcast anywhere you get them. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that's on YouTube as well. If you're watching right now on YouTube, please do us a favor as we get started. Hit that thumbs up button and click the notification bell, and make sure that you are subscribed wherever you might be listening to this show. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. On today's show, we'll talk about the Cavs losing to Oklahoma City on Sunday. They were crushed on turnovers, did not rebound well enough, and ultimately just they fell down by far too much to sustain a legitimate comeback and chance to win this game, why they need more from their stars, and what it was like watching a game from the scorers table here in Oklahoma City. But the Cavs ultimately lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder 121-113 on Sunday afternoon, and they fell behind 28-5 right off the rip in this game. Like, this was a game that for a lot of it reminded me of the Cavs in Boston last year. And I was at that game, and if you think back, I believe that one they were trailing 25-3, and they found a way to come back and get a win, and they were able to get enough stops down the stretch, and that's the thing they could not do on Sunday against Oklahoma City, or I guess more accurately, they couldn't finish off possessions. It felt like the Thunder were the team that was able to get every rebound that mattered. Like in the stat sheet, the Cavs and Oklahoma City both had 44 rebounds, but it felt like the Thunder got the important ones. They felt like they got the ones that really decided this game, and that is part of where I think this game was lost. But ultimately, the Cavs lost this game in the first 6 minutes. They were down on the road against a really good team, and yes, I understand. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't play. Jalen Williams didn't play. AJ Mitchell didn't play. Alex Caruso didn't play. The Cavs are as healthy as they've been all year, with Max Strus being the only guy on a standard contract that was not available for this game. And Evan Mobley was on a bit of a minutes restriction, and that is certainly worth noting. And we will talk about Evan coming up in a little bit because the Cavs do need more from him. But the Cavs ended up in the first 6.5 minutes of this game, or first 7 minutes of this game, they turned the basketball over 10 times. 10 times. They finished with 17 turnovers, and Oklahoma City turned those 17 turnovers into 31 points. Now, when you give a team like OKC, who is without a lot of its offensive creation, right? SGA does so much for them. Jalen Williams does so much for them. Like, they did not. I thought the Cavs, when they were able to set their defense, when the Thunder weren't able to get out in transition, when they weren't able to run off of misses, when they weren't able to attack off of turnovers, I actually thought the Cavs did a pretty good job defensively. Now, the Thunder hit a ton of threes. They finished 21 of 41 from beyond the arc. So, like, when you have this recipe of you don't rebound the basketball well enough, check that off. Cavs did not do that. You turn the ball over 17 times, including 10 of them in the first 6 minutes of this game, giving up 31 points. Check right there. And you give up 17 fast break points, 17 second chance points, and your stars really don't have great games. Check, check, check. That is the recipe, to me, for a loss against a team that the present day Oklahoma City Thunder, the Thunder team that the Cavs faced on Sunday, they are better than. They lost to a lesser team. Now, when the Thunder are at full strength, I would not say that same thing, but the Thunder without SGA, without AJ Mitchell, without Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso, like all the guys they're missing, this version of the Cavs is better than that version of the Thunder. That's why this is a bad loss, because the Cavs ultimately lost to a team that I think most people, like, rationally believe that they are better than. Again, not the full strength version of the Thunder, but they really filled out the recipe to give a team life, especially when it's on the road. And I do want to talk about the scheduling aspect of this coming up in a little bit too, because that does matter. And I know that that's not necessarily something that everybody wants to hear, but it's something the Cavs did talk about. And it is something that I do think matters as part of the discussion for this game. But I don't care who is available or not available, I guess more accurately, for the Thunder. If you spot a team that is good, like that Thunder team is still a very good basketball team. They're not great, but they are very good as they were constituted on Sunday afternoon. When you spot a team like that, a 23-point lead, it's incredibly difficult and rare to come back from. It is. It's a huge challenge on the road, and the Cavs didn't have enough to do that, right? I do think if you want to look at the bright side, and there are some positives to take away from this, if you want to look at the bright side, like this was a game that last year, the Cavs came here to Oklahoma City last year. They fell down early, and they were down by as many as like 40 points in that game. They just got absolutely rocked by the Thunder the last time they came to OKC. So for them to fall down by 23 and then find a way to battle back into it, and actually take a lead at a certain point. I think they led for around 90 seconds in this game, but they led in the third quarter because of, I thought, what was a smart decision and adjustment from Kenny Atkinson, putting Sam Merrill in the first five for the second half after he did not start this game. But like, it was something they were going to have an uphill fight the entire time. And I do think part of this is the schedule. That does matter. Like, this was for the Cavs their third game in 4 nights. And the fact that this was a noon Central Time start for the Cavs, I think makes it a little tougher. Like, it is almost like they played 3 games in 3 days. And I do think that is a bummer. And that's not why the Cavs lost this game. Like, the Cavs lost this game because I think, were shell-shocked early on with Oklahoma City's physical abilities defensively. Like, I think that was something, that's why they lost this game. And it took them a little bit too long to adjust to it. And once they did, they were fine. But it took them too long to figure that out. But for this to be a marquee game on the NBA slate, which it is, like, this was the first game after the Winter Olympics ended. This is the first big NBA week of the season, post NFL season and post Winter Olympics now, which you do have to think about with this calendar cycle. And for it to be 2 teams that everybody at the start of the season thought were like, this was supposed to be a finals preview. And for it to be the third game in 4 days for the Cavs with a noon local time start is a really tough draw for Cleveland. Now, they didn't want to make excuses. That was mentioned. Kenny Atkinson mentioned it. Sam Merrill mentioned it. I asked Donovan Mitchell a little bit about it. He said, like, it does factor into it. So it's not as if you want to make an excuse, but I do think that is certainly part of the reason. And I also look at this and say, if the Cavs would have just gotten off to an average start, or even if Oklahoma City didn't start off red hot from beyond the arc, because that's part of it. Like, the trifecta of turning the basketball over far too frequently, allowing too many second chance points, and the Thunder just going nuts from beyond the arc in this game is why the Cavs lost. But for all 3 of those things to happen against a lesser talented team is the recipe to me for a bad loss. And I do think that this was an uphill battle the entire time. And the Cavs fighting back the way they did, I think, should be something that if you're a Cavs fan, you're happy about, because this is a team that very clearly still has some things to figure it out. Like, they are not anywhere near their peak form. This was obviously the worst that they've played, and give Oklahoma City a lot of credit. Like, that's a good Thunder team. They play a very physical style of defense that I think the Cavs were not ready for. And I do think part of it was the schedule. Part of it was they need to be ready for it. Like, this is a league where there are not excuses. Nobody cares, right? The Cavs very easily could have and should have won this game, in my opinion, but they weren't ready at the outset. And that, to me, is one of the biggest issues, because when you turn the ball over 10 times in the first 6.5 minutes, you're going to give a team that I do think, like Oklahoma City, they're the champions, right? Like, they're going to, no matter who is available or not available, they're going to have a pretty strong belief that they're capable of winning that game. But if the Cavs would have come out, let's just say the way they did against Charlotte on Friday night, where defensively, maybe it doesn't look great early and they're trading baskets for quite a bit, I don't know that gives the Thunder the same life as opposed to when they're up 9-0 and then 13-2 and then ultimately 28-5. Like, that, to me, doesn't only give the Thunder a belief that they can win that game. It makes them feel like, okay, no matter what, like, we've got this. They believe in themselves, I think, at a higher level than they otherwise would have. And that's a difficult thing to have to fight against. And that's exactly what the Cavs had to do in this game. And that's, I think, a big part of the reason why they lost this game. Because if you look at it, after they were down by 23 to lose this game by 8, they outplayed the Thunder for most of the afternoon. It's just, you cannot afford to dig yourselves into as big of a hole as the Cavs did in this one. The starting lineup for the Cavs was not good. Dean Wade was not good in this game. The Cavs need more from Evan Mobley. Again, I'll talk about that in a second. I thought it was wise for Kenny Atkinson to put Sam Merrill in the starting lineup. not in the starting lineup, but put him on the floor to begin the second half instead of Dean Wade. Sam had an awesome game. He had 20 points. He made 7 more threes. Like, he was fantastic in this game. And maybe if the Cavs play him a little bit more, they win, and Dean Wade a little bit less. Like, Sam was a +6 in 28 and a half minutes off the bench. Dean Wade, the Cavs were outscored by 13 points when he was on the floor, which was the second worst mark on the team. I think Dean is an awesome shooter, but the problem with Dean is he's not a decisive enough shooter all the time. Like, he only took 1 3 in this game. And when he's on the floor, he needs to let it fly in a way that he didn't. Because if he doesn't let it fly, the Cavs offense doesn't have the space that it needs. When the Cavs have Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen out there, opposing defenses have to make a choice. They have to figure out, okay, that's the guy we can leave. We cannot focus attention on Dean Wade. And that's why it's important that he takes and makes shots. Because if he does that, then it's okay, well, what do you do, right? You don't have an antidote to the Cavs offensively. But when he has a game like this where he only takes 1 shot and wasn't great defensively, only had 3 rebounds, I don't want to say he's not useful, but his effectiveness is just not nearly what it needs to be a starting caliber player. I still think that's the right decision for the Cavs in the long term. It didn't work on Sunday, but they need Dean to be a more aggressive offensive player in order for that to work. And that, to me, is part of where the Cavs lost this game. But really, it's Oklahoma City had 17 second chance points. They had 31 points off turnovers. They had 17 fast break points. And I know that you can't just add those things up and say there's 65 points, because a lot of the points off turnovers are fast break points, or some of the points off turnovers are also second chance points. Like, those still count. But for that number to add up to 65, and I realize that it's not 65 points, just like raw points on the Thunder's ledger, but for that number to be as high as 65, that is a losing recipe for the Cavs. I don't care if you're playing this shorthanded version of the Thunder or the Knicks on Tuesday or the Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday. I don't care who the opponent is. If that opponent is a team that is serious about winning the basketball game, which the Thunder are, right? They're a very good basketball team. It's a losing recipe for you. And that is where I thought the Cavs lost this game. Now, I don't think this is something worth panicking over. Like, the Cavs need to be better, but I don't think that this should erase a lot of things. And I do think that this was ultimately a good learning experience for the Cavs. I think for this group to go into this environment, which it was a very good environment against the Thunder. This building was awesome on Sunday afternoon. For them to go in this environment, fall down by as much as they did, and find a way back into the game, I think is something they will be able to build off of. That doesn't mean things are perfect, but I look at this and say, okay, they had won 7 straight coming into this game. They had won 12 out of 13 coming into this game. It was a rest disadvantaged situation where they had a back-to-back Thursday and Friday, had Saturday off, where the back-to-back had travel as part of it, playing at home and then in Charlotte, and then coming to Oklahoma City on short rest because it is an afternoon game as opposed to a night game. And I promise you that does matter. And I believe that organizationally, the Cavs do believe that matters, to find a way back into this game, even if they couldn't close the deal. I'm not sure that that's something that this Cavs team is able to do a month ago. And I think that should be something that you look at as a positive from this. Now, those are like bad things and good things, but ultimately the Cavs needed more from their star players in this game. I said Sam Merrill was awesome. He's a role player. He's not a star. Evan Mobley, who is on a minutes restriction, wasn't good enough. Donovan Mitchell could be a little bit better. James Harden can be better. I'll talk about those 3 guys next right here. And Jared Allen too, because he's kind of in that category and he was not very good in this game. I'll talk about all those guys next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Shoot your shot on PrizePicks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. PrizePicks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If your picks are right, you can cash in. You can choose from basketball, baseball. That is right around the corner, believe it or not. Hockey, pretty big hockey game on Sunday. I watched it. It was electric. Soccer, UFC, and so much more. Plus, they've got features like early payouts and flex play so that you've got options while the games are still happening. Download the app. You'll be surprised how easy it is to get started. It just takes a couple minutes for you to build your first lineup. You can make NBA players around players you already know, or maybe some that you're just learning, because we have a couple new players in Cleveland on this roster that you're maybe still getting to know. Pick more or less on points and assists, steals, blocks, rebounds, whatever it is. It'll make every possession way more fun to watch. So download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That is LOCKEDON. NBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code locked on NBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked on Cavs your first listen. And thank you to those of you everydayers out there that make Locked on Cavs your first listen every single day. And if that is you, you might want to check out the new Everydayer Club, because it gets you access to an ad-free version of Locked on Cavs with the Everydayer Club, plus a members-only Discord access. You can join at the link in the show notes, either on YouTube or wherever else you might be listening to this show. And a big part of the reason why the Cavs lost this game is their star players were not good enough. Now, I thought Donovan was the best of the bunch. He scored 20 points on 9 of 19 shooting, was 0 of 6 from 3. Like, if he hits a couple of threes, which, he's been such a good shooter all year, I think this is an anomaly, and he missed some good looks. Like, there was one where I believe it was Lou Dort that was defending him. And this is the best game that he's had against Lou Dort over the past 4 that he's played. But there was one where Lou Dort was defending him, and he really shook Lou Dort and had a wide open 3 on the right wing. It was right in front of where I was sitting. And that's a shot that Donovan Mitchell normally makes, and he missed it. And that just kind of what this day was like. So, like, I don't look at that and say, it's something to be worried about, but he needs to be better in these games, in these moments. Like, he needs to be better than he was on Sunday. I think he would tell you that, but I don't think it's that big of a deal or something to be concerned about. And Evan Mobley he had, I thought, an up and down game. So he's on a minutes restriction. He played 25 minutes. He scored 15 points. I don't think his game was as bad as maybe it felt. Like, the Cavs were outscored by 3 points when he was on the floor. I thought of their two bigs, between him and Jarrett, Evan was actually the better big man on Sunday. And that might sound crazy, because you are probably sitting there going, Danny, what are you talking about? Jarrett Allen had 13 rebounds. Evan Mobley had 2. And you're right about that. That is the one area where Evan needed to be so much better than he was is rebounding the basketball. But I thought that the way he played defensively was really, really good. I've not looked at the numbers, but I'm very interested to see what OKC's offensive rating was when Evan was on the floor versus when Jarrett was on the floor, because the Cavs were, in Jarrett Allen's 28 minutes, the Cavs were outscored by 15 points. They were better with Evan Mobley on the floor than they were with Jarrett Allen on the floor in this game. Now, those two things are obviously not created equally, right? Like, it's not just, in a vacuum, Evan was better than Jarrett. That's not how it works. It matters who you are playing with. And like, James Harden didn't have a great game in this one. He finished with 20 points and 9 assists, but he had 5 turnovers, had 5 fouls. And I'll talk about the foul stuff in a second, because after watching this game up close, I've got takes. But I do think that they needed to be I think it started with the two bigs. Like, I think that the performances you got from Donovan and James were fine. They were not superstar performances. I think both of them can and will be better, but I don't look at that other than the turnovers, because James had 5 and Donovan had 3, like 8 turnovers between those two guys. And it felt like a lot of them came early on in this game. That to me was the biggest issues with their games, because James was 8 of 14 from the floor. Like, he was pretty efficient shooting the basketball. And I did think that he did a better job looking for his shot on Sunday than he did on Friday, which I think is a welcome sign. Like, that is something I think the Cavs needed from him. And I think he did a good job of that. But 5 turnovers is too many. And I think James Harden would tell you that 5 turnovers is too many. He also had 9 assists in this game and 5 rebounds. So, like, overall, it was a solid game, but I wouldn't say a great game from him. And I think the same thing is true from Donovan. But I do think, and Jarrett, Jarrett, to me, like, I was surprised how well Jarrett played on Friday night for the Cavs against Charlotte, because Jarrett typically has struggled on the second day of back-to-backs. Like, and Kenny Atkinson recently has actually talked about how Jarrett Allen seems to be in better shape than he's ever been before. Like, he's talked about how good his motor is, and he really attacked conditioning in an awesome way when he was out for those 3 or 4 weeks earlier this season, when he had a broken finger on one hand and a sprained finger on the other hand. So I do think that we have seen his play in back-to-backs improve, but then you get to this one where it's kind of like 3 games in 3 days because of the shortened time between Friday's game and Sunday's game, with this being a noon Central Time start. And maybe that was just a little bit too much for Jarrett. Like, his box score looks fine. He had 11 points. He had 13 rebounds on 4 of 6 shooting. But I did not think he had the same aggressive mindset that he's had before. I did not think I thought he had a better mindset on Sunday against Charlotte than he did, on Friday against Charlotte than he did on Sunday against Oklahoma City. I thought he looked a little bit quicker against Charlotte. Like, this was, if nothing else, like, it's an off game. And I think that with how good he has been during this month, Jarrett Allen has absolutely earned an off game. And with Evan, you look at it, okay, well, he's coming back from that calf injury still. I think there are flashes where he looks good. There are flashes where he looks rusty. And I thought that this game there were more spurts where he looked a little rusty and out of sorts than when he looked good. Like, he had a wide open 3-pointer, and Evan has not shot the ball well from beyond the arc this year. He was much better at that last year. He did hit one here on Sunday afternoon, but he was much better last year from beyond the arc. He had a look that could have cut it down to 2 with around 40 seconds left in regulation. That was a wide open shot. Like, they could not have gotten him a better look from the right wing. I think it was just above the break. And that's a shot he needs to hit. And he didn't hit that shot. And I don't know if the Cavs win that game. If that's the case, like, if he makes that shot, I don't know that they win the game, but obviously you feel better about things because you're within 2, the shot clock is still on, and like, you can find a way to get a stop and get a score and maybe force overtime or even win in regulation. So like, I think that those are all things to consider. But overall, I look at this, and were the role players great? No, I thought there were some good role player performances. Like, Sam was awesome. I thought Dennis was pretty good. I thought Keon was really good in the minutes that he played. He had 9 points on 4 of 7 shooting, had a couple more steals. Like, he's just been so impressive. Dennis, not the most efficient guy, but he had 11 points. He had 7 assists, had 4 boards, had a steal, had a block too. Like, I thought both of those guys were good in their roles. But I look at the 4 best players the Cavs had and say, okay, I think those guys can all be better than they were in this game. And I didn't think Jalen was very good. And I think that there's a conversation to be had there because he's not, like, I thought he was solid on Friday, but he was not. I did not think he was good in this game. Like, there was one sequence in the second half where Jalen missed a floater from like 7 or 8 feet that he has been money on this year. Like, he has just made a living on that shot. In that short, I don't remember if it was a short roll situation, but he had a floater that he has made so many times and he missed it. And then he committed a dumb foul. It was at the end of the third quarter, and that sent Chet Holmgren to the free throw line. And like, it was less than 15 seconds left in the quarter. So you play out the string and maybe you get a stop, but instead he missed a shot that he's used to making that I believe would have tied the game. And then also compounded it by making another mistake with a really silly foul on Chet Holmgren that gave the Thunder a 4-point lead, where if that plays out correctly, and who knows if the Cavs would have gotten a stop on the other end or not. I don't know. We will never know that. But if that would have played out correctly, the way that it has for most of the season with Jalen, the Cavs are tied going into the fourth quarter instead of being down by 4 going into the fourth quarter. So it's those little moments like that where I do wonder too. I wonder how difficult this has been for him mentally, because I think that Jalen Tyson did enough to earn the starting spot as that 5th starter. He's been awesome all year. He has shot the ball so well, and he was 1 of 4 from 3 in this game. But he shot the ball so well. He's operated so well in the short roll. He's been a very good defensive player. Like, he's done a lot of things really, really well. And I think that he has earned being that 5th starter. I think Dean is a better fit as the 5th starter because he provides the Cavs more defensive upside, where I think that in most situations, again, this was not the case on Sunday, but in most situations, no matter who the 5th starter is, the Cavs are going to be awesome offensively because they've got Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell and James Harden in the starting line. Like, they don't need more offense. They need the right fit. And I think that Dean gives them better defensive upside. But I do wonder if mentally that has been something that Jalen has struggled to deal with, because I just watched this game and he doesn't look right. Something just looks a little bit off there. And we'll see if that continues. Maybe he's just had a couple of off games. This was far from his best performance. Maybe he will be better on Tuesday when the Cavs take on the New York Knicks at home, and what I think is a pretty big game. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a second. Plus, I got to sit courtside. I sat at the scorer's table in Oklahoma City to watch the Cavs take on the Thunder. I want to share what my experience was like because it's something, it's a rarity. I'm very grateful I got to do it. It was an incredible experience, and I want to tell you guys about it next, right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, maybe in the building that I'm in as I'm talking to you right now? I'm sitting where Kenny Atkinson does his post-game and pre-game press conferences. And the NBA Finals were in this building last year, and they might be in this building again in June. I could be back in June. Cavs Thunder in the finals, it could happen. Don't rule it out. Well, FanDuel giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. So here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you will automatically be entered for your shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. All you got to do, use your profit boost on any NBA future. Maybe you're looking at the board, you see which team can make a run out of the Eastern Conference. Could be the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're one of the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Could be Oklahoma City in the West. Could be Denver in the West. I think there are a few different teams that could come out of the Western Conference. So all you got to do, use your profit boost there, and you will be entered to win. So not only can your pick cash, but it can also send you to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to get started today and use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life, and this year TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with local TurboTax experts in person, or you can connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work to get you every deduction that you could possibly imagine. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and you can get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a time saver, and it gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it for you. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. All you got to do, file by February 28th. So take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local. That is TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked on Cavs your first watch on YouTube. If you're watching right now, please do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked on Cavs. And on Sunday afternoon, I got to do something I've never done before. I got to watch an NBA game courtside. Because this was an ABC telecast, there were no local broadcasts, right? You didn't have John Michaels and Brad Daugherty and Serena Winters on FanDuel Sports Network Ohio. Oklahoma City didn't have their local broadcast. The scorer's table in Oklahoma City is where those folks are stationed for games here. But because this was an ABC exclusive game, those telecasts didn't happen. So the Thunder put local media at the scorer's table when that's the case. And I was lucky enough to be one of the people that sat at the scorer's table. I was like 10 feet, not even, from the sideline watching this game. And it was a really, really cool experience. And I have a couple of notes that I want to share because after being around the NBA for as long as I have, like there are things that you do pick up on, but it's different watching things from that close. You pick up on different things. Like I was able to hear every conversation that Kenny Atkinson had with Zach Zarba, the lead official that teed him up on Sunday afternoon. Like I was able to hear what led to that technical foul. I was able to hear conversations between players when the Cavs are calling out defensive coverages or saying what they should switch. Like I can't hear everything, like things that happen on the other side of the court. It's not like the sound is that good down there. But if something happened near me, I was able to hear it. I was able to pick up on it. I was able to learn so much about the Cavs and about what this game was like because of where I sat. And that was a really, really cool experience. It's also something, if you watch games on TV, maybe you watch every single Cavs game on TV. Maybe you are lucky enough to watch some in person. But unless you have sat courtside, like feet on the floor, you don't realize how big, strong, and fast the NBA game is. You don't realize the physicality that which these teams play with. Like I have an old football coach of mine who used to say basketball is a contact sport. football is a collision sport. And I still believe that to be true. Like, football is more physical than basketball. I can promise you that. But that does, I do think, a disservice to just how physical basketball is at this level. And the other thing that's kind of part of that, it to me, sitting there watching where I watched, it is stunning to me that the Cavs could be called for more fouls in this game than Oklahoma City. The physicality with which OKC defends with is off the charts. It is, and I've not, obviously, this is the first game where I've sat courtside, but the physicality that they play with is far superior to the physicality that I think any other team in basketball plays with. And guys in the locker room talked about that after the game. Like, I asked Sam Merrill what makes their defense so tough. It's like they're the most physical team in the NBA, and watching that up close and personal was, I thought, very impressive. And one of the things that Sam said is it puts a lot of pressure on the officiating crew to call fouls. And sometimes they don't. Like, that was the case. The fact that Oklahoma City was only called for 19 fouls, and the Cavs were pretty upset at times on Sunday with the officiating because they did not feel like they were getting the same calls that the Thunder were getting. Like, Kenny Atkinson got a technical foul, not because he said anything super egregious. It's because throughout the afternoon, he had so much to say to the officiating crew because there were so many fouls or calls or non-calls in, I guess, more cases that he disagreed with. Like, the thing that put him over the edge was there was a basket, and I don't remember who made it for the Thunder, right near the end of the third quarter. It was their final basket of the third quarter where Kenny Atkinson thought there was a travel, and he let Zach Zarba know about it. And at a certain point, Zach Zarba said no more, and Kenny kept going, and he earned himself a technical foul because of that. Like, it wasn't as if he said this one egregious thing. It was a buildup of it because the Cavs felt like this game was not officiated the same way both sides. And I think that is something that a lot of fans believe to be true of Oklahoma City in specific, rather often. But to be able to watch this up close and personal, I thought was really cool. Like, I'm so grateful that I got to do this. I thought added so much to the basketball viewing experience. And I feel like I'm able to do a better podcast because of it. I feel like I'm able to write a better story over at the Inside Shot because of what I was able to experience today. I thought that was a really, really cool thing. Now, I mentioned the schedule aspect of this earlier. And this was, I don't want to sit here and say this was a scheduled loss for the Cavs, but they were at a disadvantage. And that matters. And I do think, and I think that there are people internally that are unhappy with the way that the scheduling played out because this is, as I mentioned, like a marquee week in the NBA where it's time, like the NBA is starting to ramp up. It's starting to be the stretch run. And the first two games of this 5-7, which this is the third and final stretch of 5 games in 7 days that the Cavs have this year, which is the most number of 5-7s in the NBA. Nobody in the league has more 5 games in 7 nights than the Cavs do. And if you're curious, Oklahoma City actually doesn't have a single instance of that on their entire schedule this season. So the first 2 games of it were Brooklyn, which when the schedule came out, like everybody knew Brooklyn would be bad, and Charlotte. Like the Charlotte game, when the schedule came out, was not a circle the calendar. It was, okay, well, like those are 2 kind of softer games. Charlotte obviously has been a much better team than anybody thought they would be. And then this was supposed to be the finals preview type of game. So for the NBA to put this in this slot, I think did a disservice to this game. Now, it's a bummer that SGA was out and that J-Dub was out and Caruso. Like, it was a bummer that that team was as beat up. But this was, to me, a scheduled loss for the Cavs. And that's part of the reason why I don't think it's worth panicking over. Like, they still should have won this game, and I think it's fair to be disappointed that they didn't. But I think that there were things against them. And then the fact that their 4th and 5th games in 7 nights are against 2 teams that you look at, okay, those are 2 big games when the schedule is initially released in August. I just think it's a bad move by the NBA. Like, if you want the league to have the teams at their best when they're playing their biggest games, which, like, this is one of the biggest games of the NBA calendar this year, you would want the Cavs and the Thunder to both be rested, right? Cavs weren't rested. And then the Cavs face New York at home on Tuesday. Huge game. I don't know that it's quite a must-win game, but if the Cavs want to get up to 2, winning that game on Tuesday, and I do think the Cavs will win on Tuesday, that goes a long way. And then I know that Milwaukee kind of stinks because Giannis has been hurt so much, and even when Giannis was healthy, the Bucks were not very good this year. But when the calendar came out, that was a big game. So for them to have games 3, 4, and 5 of a 5 games in 7 night stretch be all big games, I think is a misstep by the NBA. And it's unfortunate that's the truth. Now we'll see how the Cavs get through it. They're 2-1 in this stretch. Like I just said, I do think that they win on Tuesday against New York, but the next couple of weeks are really big for the Cavs. They have one of the easiest schedules remaining in basketball, but between now and that game they have with Philadelphia in early March, they've got some tough tests. They've got the Knicks on Tuesday. The Bucks on Wednesday is going to be a tough game, more so because of the schedule than because of the opponent. Detroit on Friday. Then they've got Brooklyn on Sunday. Then they have Detroit again. Like, they've got big games coming up. They will, if they stumble a little bit, I think they'll be able to make it up down the stretch of this season. But finding ways to get wins and keep stacking. And ultimately, like, this is a team that has won 12 out of 14 games. They've still been the best team in basketball from December 29th on. They're really good. I don't think that this is a loss. It's a one singular loss. Now, as long as they don't allow it to compound, I don't think that this is something that is worth freaking out about. Again, it's a bad loss for the Cavs, but I don't think you should be panicking about this one. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Cavs. I very much appreciate everybody tuning in and making this their first listen on tomorrow's show. Planning to take a bit of a look at some of the things that have been working very well for the Cavs, because they're a team that has clicked earlier than expected, even if it didn't look quite as good on Sunday as it has at other points throughout this run. But if you're watching on YouTube, please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button and click that notification bell as we get out of here. And if you're listening, wherever you get your podcast, please click subscribe. It is the very best way to help grow the show and make it so I can go to places like Oklahoma City for big games. So I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.